get my Facebook going.
All right, it's live now, fellas. We are live here and on Facebook and YouTube. And for those of you that are joining in right now, we don't have anybody, but they're slowly going to come in. We've got a couple of announcements to make. We just released a sign up for the Pride of the Pinelands event. So down there at the bottom of the screen right there, you can see where you can click on that link or put that link in your browser, click on that and fill out that form to update your contact information so that we have the most up-to-date contact information for you, as well as just for us to send you some schedules and some things or what's going on with the band program. So make sure you update your information by clicking that link, and it's just a Google form and you'll be good to go. But we are joined today by one of our fraternity brothers, longtime friends for a little over 20 years. Gosh, it's hard to believe that we say that, 20 years that we've been friends and brothers. And he comes to us live from Mississippi. And we met back in Troy and played in the Sound of the South together. And well, Paris and I did. And then Jimmy and Paris, actually, his relationship goes back a little bit further. And I'll let Jimmy talk about that for a little bit. But thank you for joining us, Paris, and we appreciate you coming in and just sharing your story with the Jeff Davis Band program and our fans.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Love both of you guys, literally brothers, and pleasure just to be a part of it. And then excited to be part of the Jeff Davis Band, God willing, this year if everything works out. We'll see how that goes. Yeah,
that's right. Paris will be joining us this summer for their week of band camp if we are able to have band camp, and that's kind of like a day-to-day operations, and we've been planning on that all week, seeing what's going on with things that we need. But Paris will be joining us. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to meet Mr. Paris or Mr. Foreman or Roland, whatever he decides to call you that, or you get called that week during drill camp. Boot camp. Band camp, because he is a drill instructor, but we'll talk about more about that later too. So welcome. And so Paris, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got your start in band, why you stayed in band, just start from the very beginning.
All right. Well, man, this is going to be a complicated story that I'll try to keep from getting too boring because I go all over the place. So Orlando, Florida, originally, a small community in Orlando called Pine Hills. So I didn't come up in a traditional band. Well, we had band class, but it wasn't probably what your students are used to. It was more, if they're familiar with like a Florida A&M, Alabama State. Who do you have in Georgia?
Savannah State.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Or Albany State, right?
Albany State, yeah.
So that program is what I came up in. But I was also a football player, so I had no marching band experience as a student until I got to college. I started though I did play in the middle school band. I had, my band director's name was Dr. Robert Conger, and man, he was the most infectious, high energy, funny dude. And I, as a seventh grader, don't know much about anything yet, but as a seventh grader, I decided I want to do that. I want to be him. I wanted to be a band director. In the seventh grade, I decided I want to be a band director. Now my road traveled quite a bit from there, but because of Dr. Robert Conger, Dr. Bob Conger, that was the beginning for me. Then shortly thereafter, I met another Robert through another story that's less interesting to most people, but I found myself at a drum corps camp, and things didn't go as I
were playing. What instrument did you start on?
I was trying out in the drum line. I was trying on the bass drum, and famously Tom Hurst, who is now Carrie Underwood's drummer, but he was the triple bass drummer of Future Core fame. If you're familiar with Future Core out of Epcot, if you're not, students, you got to go check these guys out. YouTube, Future Core, Epcot. Oh my goodness! Like, if you like band, you'll love these guys. And he was the original triple bass drummer. Tom Hurst was his name. Tom was the bass tech at Magic, and he cut me. And then I came back the next camp, uninvited, and there were still so many people that I just slipped in, and they cut me again. And Tom's funny to tell the stories, like, talking to John Kempis, didn't we cut that kid last camp? Man, I don't know. They cut me again, and so Frank Williams. I saw your podcast with Robert last week, so I know his name came up last week. Hall of Fame Frank Williams saw me. Don't tell nobody else I said this, but I was crying. I got a public image of I don't cry, but I was crying. I was 14. I was crying, and anyway. Long story short, they had this massive drum line because Magic early years, that was what they were known for, was percussion. we switched that up. But in the beginning, they were percussion-driven drum corps, and so I was tough nut to crack. But they couldn't pull horn players. They had 5 baritones, and so the guy's like, "Look, man, I don't care if you can play or not. If you want to march bad enough that you're sitting here hall crying, I'll get you." So I said, if they guaranteed me a spot, I was like, okay, let's do it. So I went and I learned to play euphonium, and that's where I met Robert W. Smith. Robert was running the horn arc, already famous in band circles at that time. I didn't know who he was. But I remember as a 14-year-old kid standing in that arc and knowing very quickly, I don't know who that dude is, but that's somebody. And I knew then I better hang on every word he says. And I have for 30 years. And I still with him today. Like I went, just like you guys, I was in his band at Troy. And I went and I got my degree under him in music industry. I was his graduate assistant when I got my master's degree, and now we run a music publishing company together. So Robert Smith is pretty much the common thread through my band story. I was more of a drum corps kid than a band kid until I got to Troy. I learned to love band more when I was in Troy. But I also had some negative experiences at Troy with some student teaching. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I won't say any names, but there was a school nearby called Zion Chapel High School that had a bad experience with a band director, and they were looking for somebody to come teach band. And they didn't even have to be certified. So Ralph Ford called me in his office and said, "Hey, you want to go do this? I know you've taught there before. I'd done their band camps and wrote their drill. Jimmy and I taught there together." And so I said, "Sure." I did that one semester, and it was such a bad situation. It scared me away from band directing. I didn't want to do it again. And I didn't teach music in a public school again until this year. 20-something years later. Like, that's how bad it was. But, you always end up with what you love. And, like George Orwell, I believe it was, it said, "You're never too old to be who you might have been." So, though I've still been teaching drum corps all this time, never taught school band other than as a staff person. Never taught school band or school music again. And now I'm a school music teacher here in Mississippi now. So there's a lot of other stuff in between in there. I was in the Army. I was a financial analyst for a while. I had a real hard time finding my way. Did some stuff that I made a lot of money at, but ultimately it wasn't music, and so I didn't love it, and I couldn't stick with it, and so here I am today.
That's interesting. So tell us about your time at Troy. So you said you had some good experiences, and you played euphonium, and that's what you did when we came there at Troy. So playing euphonium, what do you think your best moments at Troy would have been? Your most memorable moments would have been with the band program at Troy?
Oh, wow, man. Well, you guys went there, so we had it, it was almost lost on us at the time what we were getting to do. I was the principal euphonium player there until my last year when I switched I kind of went full-time bass trombone. I'd been the bass trombone player in the jazz band, and man, that was a lot of fun. I love being the bass trombone player in that jazz band that year, my last year. If I'm being honest, that probably, again, though it was lost on me at the time, I look back on it now. Chad Fisher from St. Paul and the Broken Bones was the second trombone player. The lead trombone player, Josh Scalf, who's a friend of yours. He works with you guys too at Jeff Davis, hasn't he? Or has he?
Yeah, he was playing with Jake O, and he's in Nashville right now. So you look at that trombone section, or just the trombone, half of them are playing professionally now.
Well, he just posted his Grammy letter from being on an album that got a Grammy from was it Kemba?
Yeah.
So he's so good. He was the high note guy, and then he played first, and then Chad was the solo guy. He played second, and then third, actually, if you remember, TP Jeremy Barfield, who now, and I don't use the word famous lightly. He's a famous sound engineer. Like, he toured the world with T-Pain as his live sound mixer.
Yeah,
Jeremy's like this world-class famous sound. Like, if you don't know anything about live sound, that's the hardest job in the world. Like, I've done a little bit of it. Don't want nothing to do with it. It's the hardest thing. And that was a third trombone player. And then we had some other dudes too, man. Patrick Bruce from he's in
Opelika now, yeah.
Opelika, right. Martin Gaines is of Georgia fame. I know he was band director in Georgia for a while, was a phenomenal clarinet, jazz clarinet and tenor sax player. Man, there's just a lot of dudes in that band that were really good. Dan Howard and Taco and who Jeremy a couple guys from your high school, man.
Scout, Leone, and
like the trumpet section basically was Bay High and Mark McClendon.
Yeah,
that was a great band. But then there was we had Victor Lopez came in and worked with us in the jazz band that year. Victor Lopez, famous trumpet player for the Miami Sound Machine, Gloria Estefan. Again, band kids, you need to know this music. Go look him up. Miami Sound Machine. He was the trumpet player. He came and worked with us at Troy in the jazz band. Brian McKnight, R&B royalty, came in and played with the band at a football game. When Dennis Edwards was still alive, we got to play with those guys. One of the more interesting ones where we all got the opportunity. It was great for those of us that ended up working in the music industry later, the Lee Greenwood thing, where we did the halftime show with him, but then he stayed after the football game and he played a concert in our stadium, and we got to be the crew. I remember the spotlight. I followed Lee Greenwood with the spotlight all night, and with the headphones on, and his stage manager kind of talking us all through it. I don't remember if you guys were part of that or not, but that was great, man. And then of course, just the gods of concert and orchestra music. Again, Steve Melillo, Anthony Maiello, like all these people that Major Alan Clark from the Air Force Band, who's now a band director at college in Georgia at what's the new one? Georgia College? Middle Georgia University?
Something like that. Yeah.
I guess. Georgia, we're new to Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the band director there now. So yeah, man, but if you want to ask me, my highlights would have been playing Songs of Sailor Sea on the euphonium with the wind ensemble. The year we had the chamber winds was a big solo moment. I love the pieces. My favorite thing Robert Smith ever wrote.
Melody Shop.
Well, that was fun. I would have liked it better if I was up on front by myself.
Yeah.
I won't say his name. The third was me and John.
Yeah.
We were good. And then the third euphonium player, we were like, you just bang your fingers. And
I remember y'all stringing him along.
Just don't play. You just stand up there and your fingers and take a pause. Don't try to play.
I remember that.
But playing the bass trombone with the jazz band that year. And then honestly, the highlight of and Jimmy, you were part of this, the highlight of my music education, because it was something outside of my comfort zone, is something that has helped me so much. I was actually the lead in one of the musical theater productions. I played Adam in Children of Eden. Jimmy was in that production with me. And man, that made me grow so much. It tested me in so many ways. A lot of what I do, Jimmy worked with me in drum corps for years. To tell you, the thing that I am most ardent about, other than tone quality, most of my stuff is all about sound production. But the second most important thing to me is your ear, listening. And I learned so much that summer from the singing training that affected me as a brass player. I can't even tell you. And so that was probably the single most formative thing that I did at Troy.
Right, because you couldn't hide on that stage, that's for sure.
And there's a million other things that I'm forgetting that we did at Troy. Yeah. We had such a lucky streak there with Robert as the band director, and Ralph. And if you remember, Robert and Ralph were, for Warner Brothers Publications at that time, they were the heavyweights, both of them.
Yeah.
And Shane Porter as well, who was not even on staff, he's a graduate assistant. And so that's what we were doing, the Warner Brothers catalog. We did all their recording for them because of those guys. There were just so many opportunities that we got because we were at the school we were at the time we were at it. I can't even express in words the value that was to us.
Yeah, that's what we shared with Robert last week, was just that we didn't know what we were doing at the time. We were just doing what we were told. And then 20 years after it, you're like, man, we did all that? Are you kidding me? And it's made us who we are as teachers and educators, I'm sure. And it's just nice to go and just remember those times and then try to share those times with your students. And then also what you learn from that, embrace that, and then take that and embrace it with your kids and try to get them to perform and do the same things you did. Maybe not at the same level, but at a level where we will be achievable for them, you know? So,
yeah, and it makes you appreciate the teachers you had, because now that we are teachers, you understand it's not that easy to just pick up the phone and get Brian McKnight on campus, man. You know what I mean? Like and so the Robert and Ralph and the stuff and they still do it at Troy, by the way. They're still like, Robert with his music industry program now, man, and just in the time I was there, we had Ndugu Chancellor, who he just, God rest his soul, he just passed last year, but he was the drummer on the Thriller album, man.
Yeah.
The guy that played the drums on Billie Jean, we got him on stage with Populous, and he's in there playing with, like, that kind of stuff is still happening. Troy is just like the new song that they did at Muscle Shoals, Something in the Water. There's something in the water down there. And so me as a teacher, I remember the effect it had on me now, and I try to be that. Like Jimmy was part of this with me at Music City when we got Chris Bill, the trombone player.
Yeah,
we got him to come in and do a video with our kids. And man, when he was teaching, I remember me and Jimmy just got up in the stands. Like, man, let him go, get out of the way, let him do his thing. Yeah. They see us all the time.
I ain't got nothing to say to that.
This is great. Let this guy go. And we just gave him the rehearsal, man. Like if you know me, to get out of the way and let somebody else teach, that's huge. But I learned that from watching Robert, like the value of having these and the impact it had on those kids, to have that level of a person come in and work with them and take time with them. And I hope I can have a fraction of the impact on my kids because of what I learned from Robert.
Yeah, that is so true. So you mentioned Music City, and so share about your experiences with drum corps with us. You started out in as a baritone holder player at Magic, and then you went to Troy. But just share about your drum corps experience.
Well, and then the baritone holder was. You're being generous. I was actually euphonium, which if you know anything about drum corps, we have two different, and actually a lot of marching bands do too. You have two different types. You got the little regular marching baritone, and then euphonium is like basically like holding a concert euphonium in front of you. And I was 5'5", 5'6", maybe 125 pounds. Like that horn carried me. And that was rough, but I got pretty good pretty fast. I mean, it's amazing the value of having somebody like Frank Williams and Robert Smith be your first teacher, and learning things the absolute right way the first time. So I actually had a solo in my first year, believe it or not. But yeah, I did did Magic, marched all my, now it's a little different. People bounce around drum corps and stuff, which, generational, whatever. But I marched all my years with the same corps, and then went to Troy, and then bounced around. And then I actually ended up back at Magic on the staff, and then for 1 year, and then they made some changes again. Not being careful not to throw people under the bus. So I don't want to say any names, but I ended up not wanting to stay. Then came back, and me and Jim, Meredith, Matt actually teaches in Georgia somewhere now. He's
not far from us.
Yep, Statesboro.
Yeah, and we so several Magic alum, we got pulled back in as administrators, and I was actually being approached as even possibly being the president of the board, like they were talking about it. But again, some strange money decisions were being made, and so I don't think any of us ended up actually sticking with it. And so I actually got out of drum corps for a long time. I came back in here and there, with Robert. Look at there.
That's right.
Did you ever see that post I did? There's actually you can find on Google Images or something. There's a picture of Kermit the Frog. I don't know what it was from, but it was a picture of Kermit the Frog wearing that jacket, man. I swear it was. And I did a Facebook post like, who wore it better, and it had me and Kermit the Frog up there.
I hadn't seen that one.
It was hilarious. Like I'm seriously hoping that's not what the inspiration. I have to ask David Duffy. Is that the inspiration for that? Or no, I think actually Mike Rayford designed that. But yeah, so I came back in. I did, because of Robert, my relationship with Robert, I was in and around a couple times with Madison Scouts and with the Troopers. Then another Troy person several years later named Johnny Brewer, who was the brass caption head at the moment at Southwind, gives me a call. I was actually in discussions with the Troopers to be on their staff that year a little more. And then Johnny, reaches out about coming to be with Southwind. And Jimmy also, and I think I got the same call. And I was going to do it. And then Robert finds out about it. He's like, hey, you're going to do Southwind things? Yeah. Hey, before you commit to anything, let's talk. And so I found Robert was going to start writing the book for this drum corps that I had never heard of. I had never heard of Music City. And I was like, all right, well, Keith Hall was the corps founder and the director at the time. And he was also on the board at Magic when I marched there. And so Robert and I were going to Nashville anyway for the NAFME convention. So while we were there in the Opera Inn Hotel, we met with Keith Hall, and I liked what he had to say. He actually, take that back. I like how he reacted to what I had to say. I just kind of was like, look, man, if I come up there, I'm not going to be told how to do my job. I can be a bit aggressive, and you just got to let me do my thing. If you don't like it, fire me. I'm no hard feelings. He said, okay. So I said, all right, I'll give you guys a try. I was still talking to Southwind and the Troopers, but then I went to my first camp at Music City, and I was, oh man, I didn't realize this is what this was going to be. Like, cause I had no experience with open class, none. I'd only marched world class, and then we got there. Jimmy will tell you there, it was like you couldn't believe this was an open class corps. Like there were 300 kids trying out for the horn line. Like just and then you step back from it, makes total sense. Look at Nashville on the map. Like it's the what's the line from Oh Father, Where Art Thou? Geographical oddity. It's it's like,
well, it's like 8 hours from everywhere. And it's like 8 hours from everywhere. And that, I mean, I think it's really because of the fact that Nashville is so big. It's the hub for music because you can go out, take an 8-hour bus ride legally, go do a gig, and then travel back, and you'll be fine. I really honestly think it has to do with buses and everything. If it was a different city right in the geographical center of everything that we do, then it'd be a different city. But Nashville's like in the middle of the country.
Yeah, and a lot because, like you said, the music industry is there. So all of the instrument all the instrument companies, a lot of them are in Nashville. Like the people that produced our brass, the people that produced our percussion, the people that made our uniforms, actually the people that made our flags, all of it was there in Nashville. And so, it was you couldn't find a better place for it. So we ended up finding a home there. Really loved it there. And Jimmy and so my first move was to bring Jimmy in. For those of you at Jeff Davis that don't understand yet what you have, Jimmy Oliver is a world-class teacher. Yeah, boy, and that has changed, my man. Okay.
That's the day we had to build those big old drum things, wasn't it?
Yeah. Now the day James' car got stuck on the curb, we had to pick it up.
Yeah, the lollipop stand.
That's right.
You see Anthony's little ghetto wagon back there. Yeah.
Hoopty cat.
That's me and Jimmy's house in the background.
Yep.
Yeah, the carport of the house anyway. But you made me forget what I was saying. But Jimmy was a world-class tuba player and is still a world-class teacher. And the idea that I know Nick, I know you know this because you've worked with him for years and you guys are friends. So I know you know what you have there at Jeff Davis. I just hope your kids know. While we're on this subject, I'm gonna jump on Nick for a second too. Nick, when we were all in the band together, so students, you guys got to pay attention to this one, right? This is great. So Nick was he was one of our section leaders. We had 20-something tuba players, and he was one of the top 2 or 3 players. Like, Nick was a great player. It was always, I think you were in the symphony band every semester, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so one of the best tuba players that Troy had in that time period. But my man, in 4 years of marching band, I don't think was in step one time. Any point of any show. It was so funny. Like, it wasn't that he was on the wrong foot. When I say out of step, I mean there was a separate tempo going on. Like, you ever see those videos people make where they cut the bodies in half and like the top is doing like something or another and the bottom half is like wiggling around? This was Nick on the football field. And the craziest thing about it was he'd be right in time playing. It was almost impressive. Like, we would sit and watch this. Like, how do you do that? How do you play? And the tuba parts at Troy were not easy. Like, these dudes, like Ralph Ford was a monster on the tuba players. Like, the walking basis, and Nick is right on the boom. But his feet are playing like
in his own world.
Yeah, like we're playing against Jacksonville State. He's playing our opener, marching Jacksonville State's closer. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I was like, so if he ever yells at y'all about your marching technique, you go, yeah, you should let Jimmy yell.
And that we do. There's no doubt about it. That's what we do.
But one of the best players, one of the best section leaders, best leaders. Man, again, and if you guys don't know the story of Bay High School band and the evolution that it had while those 2 guys were there, I'm not going to waste your time with it, but you can ask them about it. You guys don't know how lucky you are there. Also, I was going to tell you two. Midwest, I go every year, as you know, because I work in the industry and the music publishing stuff, and I've got me and Robert have a booth up there, so we see everybody. And I tell you, it was no less than 2 or 3 times a day. Somebody that would come by, we'd be talking, and it would come up, what everybody's doing now. And some band director from the state of Georgia, and presumably in the area that you all are in, that would come and tell us how excited everybody in that area is to have you all there, because of the potential of that program and what it once was and what they know you guys are going to be able to bring it back to. Like, people are really excited to have you back there. I know one of the big ones talked to you. I think he actually works for you guys, Dennis Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like your middle school guy, maybe, or elementary.
Yeah. He said hey to you, by the way, on here.
Awesome, great. Like tell him I said hi. It's good to see him in Chicago. He Halloween parties with
that was one of the best Halloween costumes ever.
And then Josh was
Josh was the dryer, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, and then I actually kind of forgot about this until it came up recently. If you remember the party in the main hall, me and Josh got there hours ahead. This is how committed to the bit we were. We got to the band room because you remember I was the TO, so I had the keys to everything. We went in the band room hours before everyone else so that no one would see this. And we snuck into the hallway, the main hall, and we put that washer, and we were inside that thing. And we sat for the first, and so we were there 2 hours ahead of time. And then we stayed in that thing for the first hour of the party so that people would start congregating around us. And we just kept, and the whole plan was we were waiting for the first person to open one of them and see, why is there a washer and dryer in the band? You would think that would be a weirder thing than it was. Nobody was reacting. People were even setting their drinks and food and stuff on us. So finally, an hour in, Josh is 7 foot tall behind and had enough of being balled up. And he just stands up, and it scared everybody in the hallway to death. It was great. And then just coincidentally, we didn't even plan this, some girl showed up dressed as a basket of laundry. So she ended up following us around all night. That was great.
You, man, we had good times.
Those were good times.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, we brought you in, and using the wealth of people that we know, trying to get folks to come in and help out. And, that there is a untapped mine, I think, of talent here. And there's kids that want to do it. They just don't know how, and things haven't been utilized in the best. And that's one of the reasons why, I said, hey, we need to give you a call and get you in here and try to find, some other folks to come in and do camp and have a good time and be able to build it up and enjoy camaraderie like this, but also, teach the kids and whip them into shape a little bit. So,
yeah, man, I hope it works out. It's like I tell people, I will not hesitate to tell people the absolute truth. I am a fraud. I am nothing. I'm nobody. What I am is charismatic. I'm high energy. I can motivate people. I have that Vince Lombardi thing. But all my brass pedagogy that everybody, it's free. You want it? Ask. Jimmy has my entire book. All your students, ask him for it. You can have it. Don't care. None of it. I didn't invent any of it. I reworded some stuff. I find my own ways of delivering things. But every bit of this is a product of Robert W. Smith, Frank Williams, Donnie Van Doren indirectly, Don Taylor, Mac Dees, these great guys, these great teachers, Susan Smith, these world-class teachers that I had the fortune of being trained by. And so I'm just regurgitating all that stuff, man. Yeah. And because of all the things they gave me, I got here. And so what could I ever do for Frank Williams? What could I ever do for Robert Smith? Nothing. I can't do anything for them. So how do I repay them? This is how I repay them. I do the best job I can to be them for somebody else, to take their brilliance and be a conduit for it and pass it down. If I've done anything, if I'm good at anything, it's management, leadership. But those guys provided me the product. Jimmy, Jonathan Valentine's of the world, the Rachel Pittmans of the world, Friedman of the world, Ian McNeil's of the world, the people that have trusted me and came to work for me, they are the ones, the extra team, and they're putting that work in with those kids individually, grinding out. And then most importantly, those kids, we got a lot of credit last summer for the leap that our section made, the brass section made last year, and what we were able to do. And people were putting that credit in the wrong place. Man, those kids, I didn't march a step. I didn't play a note. Those kids put in that work. Those kids did every bit of that stuff. And I think that it's very important that we as teachers, especially people at the top, the leaders, always remember, make sure that you're appreciating what this is, why it is, and who put you there, who's putting you there now, and make sure you're appreciating those things, both for yourself and publicly. Let everybody know, man, thank you. I tell Jimmy and the rest of my staff all the time, I can't thank you enough for the work you do for these kids. I cannot thank you enough. I can't tell you how much it means to me and how much it means to them. What you are and what you are. And Nick, I haven't worked with you in forever, but I know the products that you put out. And so I know what you are. And I know how much you love your kids. I know how much you appreciate your staff, because I know that you wouldn't be where you are now if you thought you were doing it yourself.
Yeah, no kidding. And you've always got to surround yourself with people that are better than you. And I've been a master of doing that my entire career. And, because Jimmy's the only one who's written any kind of drill for me, because I can't write drill. You think I can't march? You ought to send me write drill. It's terrible.
Yep.
But we got people like we've got I got a couple of former student Jessie, her new name is Belline, but she was Whistler when I taught her, and she comes in, she's got a degree in horn performance, and she's been working with me for 10 years now at camps and bringing her in, and then she's connected me with one of her good friends, Chelsea, and it's just about exposing, getting these people that are better than you to lift yourself up, but as you were saying, motivating the students to just buy into this process and buy into this I don't want to say game, but that's what it really is. We're playing a game of music, and we've got to produce this product and getting these kids to buy the product that we're selling them. And having people around you that are better than you, 10 times better than you, is the whole point. I don't hire anybody worse than me, because there's probably nobody out there. Well, I take that back.
Oh, there's always one or two.
There's always one.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's a great picture. Oh my God.
That is
yeah. But I couldn't agree with you more. Like the last, I can just use the example. Just at Music City, I brought in Dennis Lorenzo one year. Last year, I brought in Don Taylor. Both of those guys could do my job 10 times better than I do it. Mm-hmm. I had no ego about it. I was not afraid of people seeing that they were better than me. I didn't care. I was like, you guys can help me. You guys can make this better. Come on in. And I think that's a great thing to do.
Hey, look, Rob McFarlane is on with us.
Speaking of
that guy.
Yeah, Rob, and then you two. That was like the holy trinity of tuba players at Troy, man. You guys, we were actually. I was driving to Biloxi. That's where I'm moving to, is Biloxi. So I've been back in there a little bit, and had my phone in the on the autoplay thing or whatever, and just happened to come across some recordings of the Troy band. And I like, not really trying to listen to Troy band, but sometimes something comes on, you say, all right, listen to this for a minute. And it was funny, like the tuba solos, like, first of all, the thing that like my girlfriend Tracy, who's also a band director, Jimmy, she was always really impressed with, when she hears those recordings, that all of our solos were improvised. And like, what college band does that? It's like, well, nobody anymore, not even them. But that was what we did. But then the tubas, it was usually Rob McFarlane was the
Yep.
on the shuffle, or something going crazy. So
yeah.
You guys
always the favorite tuba memories that I have from the Troy band was when we did the Aquarius show. I think you marched sousaphone that year in Paris with us.
I was here.
And I think there was about 20 of us, and it was a lighter section than usual, but we brought the funk. And
well, man,
I'm waiting, because he is still.
I knew he was going to bring this up.
To this day, he is still mad that he was not.
He thinks he's slick. He's telling all that because the tuba. Because you played tuba that year, didn't you? Yeah, and we were.
That's right.
We all know what you want to say, so go ahead and say it. Mr. Guy who just a minute ago, he has no rhythm and can't even march in time, but he can dance. Go ahead.
But it's okay, I'm not bitter about it at all. Yeah.
He never brings it up, ever.
So, all right, I'll say it. So we played, it was the closer that year, right? It was Aquarius.
Middle, I think. Or, yeah.
One of the middle numbers. No, but seriously, before you bring up that, what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to bring up was the Troy performance, the live performance of that. And we were playing it, and the band was on or something that night. And I remember it was so good that Ralph put it on the CD. And the reason he put it on the CD is because the stadium was exploding and cheering. And all of a sudden, the percussion section does their little chomp, chicka, chomp, chicka, chomp, chomp, chomp. And then the crowd goes, yeah, stops.
Yep.
But I just, like, when I want to get, like, crunk up, I play that song because we brought the wood. We laid the wood.
Did a good job on the arrangement, too, man.
Oh, yeah.
That Ralph Ford arrangement, so it was smoking. It didn't, man. We would be remiss while we're talking about Troy tubas maybe not the most technical guy in the world, but Josh Solomon, bro. I have been around a lot of dudes for a lot of years. Nobody brought the wood like that guy. Like, he was the only person I ever saw that could play a low C and just, I'm just staring like, how are you doing that?
Fred, yeah.
Physically impossible what you're doing right now. But yeah. So
well, the year that Jimmy was going to Japan, he had a contra in the band room, and Josh picked that thing up, and he's like, Jimmy's like, you can't blat on that. There's no way nobody can put so much on that. Josh pulls that thing.
It was one of those convertible Yamahas, those B flat Yamahas that had the B extension. I have a feeling if I had that 3-valve Super Mag that we actually took, he would struggle because, man, that
I don't know.
I believe he could rattle, but I think lower than a low C. When he started getting down with some valves, because that thing's already a low G.
Yeah. I'm just saying, Josh was a bad.
But yeah, I didn't think there was any way. I was like, here, man, go ahead.
He's 7 feet tall. His lungs.
There's something wrong with that boy.
Like I said, can you imagine? We'll have to tag him in this so that he'll come back and watch this. Can you imagine if he would have ever practiced?
Oh.
Yeah. How good he could have been. Because you know how hard it is to get, like, as teachers, you know how hard it is to get people to commit that kind of air to their instrument.
Yeah.
Like it's the basis of what we do. Now at Southwind is, man, relax and play. You got to let the air go. Well, nobody ever had to tell
you. Josh belonged at an HBCU. He should have been at Alabama State and not Troy State. But
he was there.
But he would have laid lumber with those kids so good.
Yeah.
To go back with what you said about just being relaxed, I mean, sometimes I don't think we set kids up to be relaxed in the educational setting. I mean, you think about it, the first that you sit down and you have your book out and you have to follow that book. Not saying the book is the end all be all of everything, but when you start talking as a kid, we don't teach them English or ABCs. We sit and we say that we tell this is a bottle, and your kid goes baba, and then all of a sudden you start saying baba too, and then the kid understands this bottle later. So sometimes I think that as educators we hold kids back as letting them be relaxed and playing because when we see them in high school, and I'm sure you've seen this in the drum corps, they're scared to death to make a mistake because somewhere along the way someone yelled at them for doing it wrong, which it's okay to make a mistake. And if you don't make those mistakes in the way that we react to those mistakes, we can let these kids know that, yeah, man, you might have played that incorrectly. I like the way you played it, but this is the correct way to do it. We could really, really, I think we could change overall music education in general.
100%. 100%. And I'll tell you, you brought up the drum course. I'll tell you, that is the biggest issue that we have at drum corps coming in. Now, I'm sure that the top 5 or 6 groups probably don't deal with this, but for most of us, the biggest problem we deal with is unteaching bad habits that they've learned where they came from, and without throwing back. Because here's the thing, man, you guys, band directors, especially middle school band directors, you guys got a raw deal. How in the world are you supposed to do this right in 45 minutes a day? You know what I mean? And they still got to put their instrument together. You got 45 different, so I think the problem is twofold. You nailed the first one. Stop punishing mistakes. Now, Jimmy can tell you this. This is a fundamental tenet of what I do. One of the first things I do is make it very clear to everyone in the room, there is no punishment for mistakes. None. Like, you got to be fearless. You got to go. But the other problem is patience, I think, because you're dealing with 2 uphill battles as a beginning band director. Number 1 is the time constraints we talked about. Number 2, the attention span of a 12-year-old. Or 13-year-old. The best way to learn is the way I had to do it, where I was not given an instrument. I had a month before the next camp, and I was given a mouthpiece. And that's all I had to play on for a month was a mouthpiece. Well, you're not going to play with a lot of pressure if all you're doing is a mouthpiece. You don't know any better. There's no instrument to pull into your face. It's just a mouthpiece. And so that's how I was forced to learn. What would happen if you had 12-year-old Susie Q who wanted to come play trumpet, and you told her, okay, well, for the first month of school, all you get to buzz on is this thing. You don't get your trumpet yet. Is she going to stay in band?
Nope. Probably not.
But probably not. So you don't have the opportunity. You have to get to hot cross buns pretty fast
Yeah.
You know, so they
They
maintain
want
it.
that horn in their hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that deal with society that everybody wants the instant gratification.
Yeah.
I
You
don't,
know, we've got to be able to create a subject, create an environment where they know that they have to work, but in a way that you have to go to the woodshed and whittle away on your piece, so that way you can really know your craft. You know, it takes time, but you know, I don't know. There's a way of teaching by rote, which I do not agree with at all. And then there's a way of teaching by the book, which has its purposes, but sometimes, you know, I don't know. It's like such a fine balance, and I still haven't figured it out.
Find the balance.
You know, that's actually a good point you bring up, because I'll tell you my philosophy on it, and then you, as experienced band directors, can you know, whittle away at this. But my philosophy has been, let's teach first. Any kid that's ever taught, that ever took from me, will tell you, if it's almost like Pavlov's dog. If I say, what's the most important thing? The thing that comes out of the mouth is going to recite it back is going to be, how do you sound?
No.
Sound is number one to me, right? But so what do? Every single thing you ever play in band, every single day, as a wind player, is a variation of a long tone or a scale. That's all music is. That's all band is. That's all wind instruments are. Long tones and scales. Some long tones are an eighth note long. Some long tones are a whole note long, but everything's a long tone. How does it sound? Every single pattern you play is a scale. It may be a pentatonic scale. It may be a Clark scale. It may be, but it's a scale. It's your fingers learning. So I think that my philosophy is, if we spend less time, or actually no time, what you said, get rid of the rote teaching. Stop doing it. Don't do it. Teach them how to play with a good sound through a full register of the horn, not just on middle C and F. Teach them range. This is a whole nother debate that we could get into about range not being a low to high thing. I think range is built from the middle out. But teach them to play with a good sound, teach them to count, and teach them their scales. Brody, if you can play all 12 major and minor scales, I promise you there's nothing that they're going to put on the page, no accidentals, that your fingers aren't going to automatically know what to do. You don't need to practice the actual piece of music as much if you know your scales, because your fingers already know this stuff. So you teach them to play, you teach them to count, you teach them to do scales. You spend more time on that, and you won't need as much time in the music, because the actual technique of the method of playing stuff, they're already going to have. But again, I'm saying that as a person, I have 4-hour rehearsal blocks every day, not counting ensemble. That's just my sectional. You guys have 45 minutes of actual practical playing time a day in your classroom setting usually. So I understand that I'm talking very idealistically, but I mean, there has to be some application for that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, you know, what I've always done is always focused on fundamentals, and you've got to make the fundamentals fun so that they can buy into what you're selling them with the fundamentals. Because if you don't have fundamentals, you can't have technique. If you can't have technique, you can't have musical effect. And you want to strive to focus on the fundamentals so that you can get to the technique, while striving for getting to the musical effect of a piece. I mean, I just don't want, like, I'm tired of children or students timid of playing. You know, they're just intimidated by the horn, or they're intimidated by the teacher, you know. And I know that, you know, it's hard I remember my first year teaching, I was scared to death. I was scared to death anytime an adult walked into that room, because I thought they were judging me, you know. And I read a quote the other day, is that the 20-year-olds think are scared of you're worried of what everybody else thinks of you. And then I think when you turn 40, you really don't care as much as what you thought as a 20-year-old. But when you turn 60, you know that no one was paying attention to you at all. And and that, I think that's the mentality we've got to somehow teach these young musicians, is that no one's really paying attention to you because they're too busy trying to figure it out themselves. And let's break down and relax and just play your music the way that you should, so that we can help you out. And you know, if you ever figure that out, Paris, let me know. And Jimmy, I'm sure you and I have been talking. We've been talking about this since day one. Yeah. You know, and it might be, because we have all these great podcasts and great resources of how to make your band sound good. But I really think it has to do with the people sitting in the chairs, because they're doing all the work. We're just standing up, waving our hands. The kids are doing all the work. We can tell them to play in tune, but you've got to focus on your ears, like you said, with singing. So
yeah, you're very right. And I'll say, pardon me, what the and I can tell you this because I've been both. And when I was younger, I was that dude. I was the guy that was like on you. Why aren't you doing this right? And it was always, you're not trying hard enough. You're not focusing. And part of that comes from, I was a very natural player. I was very good, very fast. And so a lot of what I didn't have anything to do with, I did have a very good work ethic and I practiced it. And I got to the level I got to because of that. But in the beginning, things came very natural. It's not going to be that for everyone. And so I didn't have much patience. And so I can tell you, from my mistakes, being very, very hard on some students that I had very young on. I'm still demanding. I'm still hard, but it's different. I do not punish mistakes now. And I think that the big thing is when they make is, again, number one, you already nailed it. Stop punishing mistakes. Teach them to go for it. Matter of fact, that was one of the greatest gifts that Robert Smith gave me. It was always, if you're going to make a mistake, make it huge. You know what I mean? There's no
great mistake.
Right. And so let them do it, because then what happens is then when they make that great, and I actually take it a step further, I praise the great mistake. When somebody comes in and it was supposed to be a rest and they just tack that high G, bang, oh man, who was that? And of course everybody's like looking around, they're scared they're in trouble. The kid raised his hand. Man, that was awesome. That was great. You played right through the center. It was perfectly in tune, great time. Now, make sure you're subdividing so you hit that on the right beat. You know what I mean? Like, praise the mistake so that not only they're not afraid of them, they almost kind of look forward to it if they do it right. You know what I mean? Because when they expose the mistake, now how much easier for you as the teachers have to clean?
Yeah.
Now I can tell you, this is specifically what you did wrong. Like, when they come in, they nail, go after the high C, and they crack it all over the place. Man, you put a lot of air behind that. Perfect. Here's how we're going to fix it. Now, make sure you're set, relax, keep the tongue high, whatever the thing is. You can address exactly what they did wrong so they can make it better. You never get better without exposing mistakes, and so you can't be afraid of them. And you're saying all the right stuff. Now, I think the one step that I take that might be different in the approach is that I praise the mistake. Like I don't just not punish it. I praise it. That was a great mistake, man. Now, here's how we fix it. And that's what works for me.
All right. So one thing that my dad always told me is that the first time is always ignorance. The second time is stupidity. So when you have a child who plays the be natural first valve each time, you told them the first time, how do you take care of that? I mean, because it really, I mean, there are great mistakes, and the good mistake there to me is, the difference between B flat and B natural now on the trumpet. You follow? And so if they continue to hit the wrong notes, that's the biggest frustrating thing for me is like, you've got the key signature, it's telling you what to do. You're not paying attention. That's what I get frustrated with the most. Yeah. How do you deal with that frustration? Well, what do you do?
I have two responses to that. First of all, it's an adaptation of something that I heard Bob Stoops once say. Bob Stoops, the famous football coach at Oklahoma, if you're familiar with him. And he once at a coaches convention said, if it's happening on the field, you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. Now think about that, because he's right. It made a lot of people mad. A lot of people got mad. Think about it, because he's right. If it's happening in your band room, you're either teaching it, whether you know you are or not, you're either teaching it or you're allowing it to happen. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so Billy plays B flat middle valve, right? Okay, no, Billy, that's wrong. So what did you do different this time? Did you just tell him it's middle valve? Because his book could have told him that. Or did you say, okay, pick your pencil up and write 2 or write 1 or go over there. This is something I do all the time, even with college level kids. I don't care if they get offended. I'm trying to make you better. Go over there in the corner and you play that pattern 25 times. Go over there in the corner of the field by yourself, face out to the trees, and you play that pattern with 25 times. Or until you can do it 10 times in a row, perfect. Like, I'll take them out of the rehearsal, away from the ensemble, go fix, because it's that important. It's got to get fixed. But what did I do different? If I say it one time and they fix it, no problem. Got it. Because and to be fair, at my level, most of those kids are that level. I can say something once and they go, oh, okay, thank you. But not all of them. Jimmy will tell you, we ain't exactly dealing with, the Disney World All-Stars here in drum corps. Like, we got a lot of kids that can't play. And we have to work with them a lot more than you probably would imagine. But again, that's my 2-part answer. Number one, you're either teaching it or allowing it to happen. So figure out how and why. And then number 2, what are you doing different? You want him to do something different. the second time he played it, what are you teaching different? Because if all you did was tell him the valve, well, you've told him the valve before. That's why you expected him to already know it, right?
Yeah.
So you've told him before. So what are you doing different? Because obviously, are you familiar with? I was about to ask a really, really stupid question. You're familiar with the term differentiated instruction, right? The idea that we all learn differently. And so, Jim, Robert used to always tell us, you got to say everything 3 times. And, Nick, you heard this too. You got to say everything 3 times, but each time's got to be different. You know what I mean? Close that door. When you leave, make sure that door is closed. All right? Closed is the position the door should be in. Now, I said it 3 different ways. So everybody in that room understood one of the 3 of them. I know that was a very simplistic breakdown, but you understand the point. So obviously the way that he's been taught didn't stick. So what did you change? I told you that was going to get long-winded.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because I think it's true that we need to hear that as educators, and also the kids that are listening need to hear that too, because sometimes they get frustrated with us saying the same thing over again, like you said, 3 different ways, because those kids get it, but we're doing it for everyone else. And if they can learn as young student leaders that they can do the same thing, it makes our job as teachers easier. And as we're doing our job as teachers, our job really is to teach kids to be self-motivated, honestly, and make sure they're lifelong learners. So it makes our job even easier to direct a band. So, well, Paris, Jimmy, you were about to say something. You look like you had the saying lips.
I was going to ask him because we talked about earlier that he's moving down to the coast. What position? What's going on? I know you and your girl are moving down there.
Yeah, my situation is changing a little bit. I'm actually kind of excited about it. First of all, as a Florida boy, I'm just thrilled to be getting back down to the beach. That's
you don't like the swamps?
No. And it's an hour away from Mobile, which is where I'm in the National Guard in the Army, and that's where my unit is. And so that's cuts about 3 hours out of my commute to Mobile too. But the bottom line is Tracy, my girlfriend, has been the band director for 13 years. She's at a big school here in Jackson called Madison Central. She got offered a job at Biloxi High School. They want her to come in and she's going to be the junior high band director, and she's going to run the color guard program down there. She's she's been the color guard captain of 2 different drum corps. And she's going to be helping out with her other strong set is design. She's going to be doing like the helping out the program coordinator with designing shows and doing indoor program, all that kind of stuff. So they really wanted her. And so they interviewed her, and the interview at the end of the interview, they basically said, look, we still got to interview these people, but we're going to offer you the job. And Tracy goes, okay, cool. Well, I can't let you know anything right away because Paris has to find a job too. And I had applied for a job at Ocean Springs, which is real close. Actually, that's a great band, by the way. You got to look them up. They're a great band program. But I had applied there, and I was still looking, but whatever. But then the band director goes, so the only thing between getting you here is making sure Paris has a job. She goes, yeah. He goes, all right. Well, as it turns out, they're in the middle. It's not even done yet. They're in the middle of construction right now. It's a $14 million performing arts center that they're building on campus. That's attached to the band room, and it's going to service the entire fine arts department for the middle school, junior school, and high school, junior high school, and high school. And so they are hiring me as an assistant band director, and I will be the director of the performing arts center. So basically, I'm going to run the theater, working with the band, the choir, and the theater departments. And I'm going to be teaching beginning brass 2 days a week over at the junior high school. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be fun.
Very cool.
And so, yeah, we start, like I said, we move June 1st and start like August 11th, I think, something like that. But really excited about it, man. It's a good program. We're both already familiar with it. We've seen their marching band at competition stuff. They not starting from scratch, man. There's a lot to work with down there. So really excited.
That's all. That's always a good thing when you're not starting from scratch. Right. Always a good thing.
And staying at Southwind, drum corps in a weird place right now. Probably in terms of the arts activities, we're in maybe the weirdest place of any, because the one thing that you all know is Jeff Davis is still going to have a band in the fall. You know what I mean? Like and bands with drum corps as an activity, we're not 100% sure we're going to get out of the water on this. We'll see. Southwind is in pretty good shape. They've done a good job financially down there. They've got a good structure. we're going to be okay. But got to have a DCI for there to be a Southwind. You know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, you can go back. What I love about, to bring coaching into this, people who are successful coaches either are really innovative thinkers or they do things 20 or 30 years ago on the football field, right?
mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think Drum Corps has to do. They have to be really innovative coming forward, or they have to go back to the true community roots of a core, why a core existed, to build up that financial backing and get that buy-in. Because realistically, and I say this on light feet because I've never done drum corps in my entire life. I could teach the music part of it, but everything else is just sometimes I can't think about it because I'm not smart enough to understand most of it, if that makes any sense to me. But sometimes I think I have lost track of the drum corps personally from from 30 years ago to now. About 10 years ago, I could not pay attention to it, so I kind of lost interest in it. And it wasn't until recently, past couple of years, bought back into it for whatever reason. And I don't know why that is. And so this is just someone who's saying this, doesn't know anything, but, you got to focus on the community, just like in a high school band. Focus on your community, like Southwind's done. I'm sure Southwind has really bought into the community of Mobile and done some things in Mobile that Mobile has bought into Southwind, and so that's why they are financially successful. And I'm sure there's some other corps that think they don't need their community, and they haven't been bought in like Southwind has, and they're probably having those financial struggles. But that's just me speaking from the cuff and not knowing anything about DCI at all. So.
Well, no, your all of your opinions are valid, man. And listen, as a person who's a lifelong band guy, like you are, who loves marching band or whatever, and even if you never march drum corps, the performing arts, the pageantry arts, as we call it now, with all the stuff and everything else, if somebody like you can't get involved in or can't get interested in it, then there's something to that, and something drum corps. Yeah. I think that you're right. I think that that we went the way of I always call it the Miles Davis effect. Miles Davis is widely regarded as probably the best jazz trumpet player that ever lived. But towards the end of his life, or career, his popularity waned because he stopped playing for the people and he played for him. So there's famous stories of him turning his back on his crowd and playing because he didn't care about the people listening. He cared about his creation. That's all he cared about. He got too cool for the room. You know what I mean? And I think the drum corps got into that for a bit, where it got so forward thinking with the innovation, so forward thinking. It was about design for design's sake and making sure that all these elements matched this, that, and everything. And it didn't really matter if any of it was connected. And I think that what we found out, I'm always want to give credit where credit is due. I think the start of all of this was 1993, Star of Indiana. To me, still the greatest drum corps show of all time. And they created an element where we said, oh my God, visual design can matter. And it just evolved to a point where visual design was the only thing that mattered. And then in 2016, I give credit where it's due. Blue Coats, they changed it. They changed the game. They went out. I always joked around. They had these giant, if you saw the show, Nick, they had these big slides. And
it's funny you bring that up. That's the reason that brought me back into drum corps. I'd go to the Southeast Championships just watching. I just wasn't entertained at all. And then all of a sudden I see the slides. I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of brought me back into it.
Yeah. And I always joked it was what happens when band kids watch American Ninja Warrior too much. But the reality is, if you and I know that you do, you and Jimmy are both high-level teachers. If you watched that year, that wasn't the best drum corps on the field. They were not. In terms of just who's executing, they were probably third, maybe fourth. But what they were doing was so important, they had to win. And then it forced drum corps to react. And that's why we got the shows we've got the last couple of years. Blue Devils, 2 of the last 3 shows. Santa Clara Vanguard 2 years ago was and what they did wasn't even that hard if you go back and look at it. They took out, we stopped being hard just for the sake of being hard. Hard is impressive when people can see that it's hard and see that it's, but sometimes
illusions. It's like magic tricks.
Yeah. And so they did a really good job of taking everything and putting it front and center. Look at this thing we're doing, listen to this thing we're playing, but still giving people memorable melody lines.
Yeah.
My body is a cage. That's going to be drum corps eternity now. No one's ever going to forget that. Because that melody, that haunting melody, will stick with you. Drum corps lost that for a while, and I even said about that 2016 Blue Coat show. Sing something from that show, Nick. Go.
I can't.
It was your
I'm
favorite
not that good.
show that year. Sing something.
You know, it brought me back, but I don't remember it. I mean, I can't. That's not who I am.
Right.
I'll sing you some.
Yeah, that makes the point though. There was, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
there wasn't musical stuff in there. There was, but
Yeah.
so we're slowly starting to bring it back. Like we're getting back to, we're keeping these high level design elements which have to be there, and so we're keeping those, and we're still always pushing the limits in terms of visual execution. Man, the kids now, the stuff they're doing, I'm not going to say it's harder, it's different. Like we marched a lot more sets of drill in the 90s, but they have more visual demands now, things that they do, and we're constantly pushing at them, new things, new footwork, new design. It's always pushing. But what we've started to pull back into the fold, and I give the percussion people credit for this, because it's the indoor percussion guys that are taking over the design world right now. They are making music matter again, and I think that we're about. I honestly, and I'm gonna make a prediction, and then I know we're already 30 minutes longer than we said we were gonna do. I'm gonna predict that 2021 is gonna be the greatest year in drum corps history, and
there's no doubt about that. I will second that, Paris.
I'm gonna tell you why. For one, probably most importantly, drum corps is gonna matter again, in a way that it hasn't mattered in a long time. People now realize how easily this all could go away. What people in drum corps don't realize is we've been on the doorstep of this for years. You know, all it takes is for schools to decide we just can't have these teenagers sleeping in our gym anymore. And a lot of schools have done that. And it's the number of places we can stay are getting smaller and smaller. And now, who's ever going to let us back in? Who knows? Like, we're going to have to rethink all of this. The copyright lawsuits that are a decade old now that haven't been settled yet. All of this can go away permanently like that. And I think for the first time, we have a real seat to it. So people are going to come back reinvested. Also, with it being a 2-year process, most everybody is going to keep the show we were going to use this year. We just have an extra year to churn all this stuff, and the kids have the kids that stay with the corps they're with now have an extra year getting that stuff under their fingers, have an extra year to get their bodies in shape. Like it's basically a 2-year drum corps season. And I think next year is going to be the beginning of a renaissance, man. And I'm excited about it. I know I'm excited about what we got going on at Southwind. I think that we're poised to be the new powerhouse in open class. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, good. That's congratulations on that. I forgot.
You got kids who want to march, man. Where's that? Where's the camera? Come on. Too close. Southwind. Southwind.org. Southwind.org. Sign up. Come on in. Jimmy, send us. Nick, send them. They don't even have to be able to play brass. I'll teach them to play.
That's right. That's right. We'll send you anybody we can send you.
Well, they're going to get.
I agree.
They're going to get a flavor when he comes this summer. So.
Oh,
yeah, and I'm pretty. If I'm not a betting man, but if I was a betting man, I'd put $100 that everything's going to be on for July. Around here anyway. Hopefully it won't back out. So we're look forward to you being here. So we're going to give you one last final thought with Paris Foreman. Paris, what is one thing you wish you could have told 9th grade Paris or freshman year Paris at Troy today that you wish that you knew, piece of advice that you knew that would benefit high school kids or middle school kids going forward to graduation or their careers or whatever? This
is not an original. I'm not taking credit for this. But that's not what you asked. You asked what I wish somebody would have told. If I could go back and tell me this. This is a Bobby Bowden. Because man, people will forget what you do. They will forget how you did it. They will never forget how you made them feel. Yep. And I can tell you, I'm in my 40s now. I had my circle of friends in high school, drum corps, in college that stayed with me all this time, whatever, because they knew me. They got to know my sense of humor. But there's a lot of people. Like watching this Michael Jordan thing, Last Dance, I see.
Oh, man, it's great.
I see me in that a lot with him because I wanted to be great so bad that I got like viscerally angry at people that weren't working as hard as I was. And I was mean to people. I was flat out mean to people. And it's funny. Stuff that I did and said as an 18-year-old kid, there are people now, 25 years later, hold a grudge against me on it. They still don't like me, even though I'm nowhere near that person anymore. And even then, I wasn't really mean. You just didn't understand my motivations. So I wish I understood back then, because being my drum corps being another place higher in 1993 isn't worth damaging relationships for 25 years. So people will forget what you do. They'll forget how you did it. They'll never forget how you made them feel. So when you meet somebody new, make them feel important. When you got somebody new come into the band, make them feel welcome. Make them feel like they matter. Make everyone around you understand, even if you want them to get better, make sure they know that that's what it is, that you want them to be better because you want them to be better. Don't be mean, man. Just don't be mean.
Don't be mean. I think we all could learn from that. Be kind.
Absolutely. I'm trying to cut down on my rulers. We'll have to tell you that story when you come for band camp.
All right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a story. I tell you that. Well, Parrish, thanks for joining us today, and we appreciate you giving up your time. Again, guys, don't forget to sign up and update your contact information through that link. We'll post that link in the chat box too, so you can follow that on your phone or something. But thanks again, Parrish, for being here. We appreciate you, and we look forward to working with you this summer. It's going to be a blast. You guys,
don't have
and Jimmy, for real, share that brass manual with the kids, man.
Yep.
Give them a head start on what they're going to get used to when I get there. And
yeah, we can go ahead and put it in our Google Classroom and
even if
put it up there.
Even if it doesn't happen, still share it with them, man. It can help. I don't.
Yeah.
What good is that brass manual doing me sitting in your laptop, man? Get it out
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, and guys, we'll tune in later for our next. We'll let you know when the next Jacket Jive will be. We're going to go light since we're kind of going into the summer of things, but we'll let you know what the next one is, and you guys be good. We'll see you on the other side.